It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book here on the final Saturday of 2023. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's alongside. Good morning.
Good morning. Final Saturday of 2023. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just time moves quickly. Let's just go with that. A lot to get to today. Our guy Vinny Magliulo will be here at some point, either 20 after, 40 after, 50 after. He'll be here at some point today. But we got a lot to get to today. And a good NFL game, college bowls, college hoops, the NBA. The Detroit Pistons are back in action, Alex, trying to break the not winning streak, the losing streak. Today they host Toronto. Hockey as well. A lot to get to on a Saturday of sports here, the final one of the 2023 calendar year. And let's start in college football. Let's start there. Yesterday, New Year's Six games get underway with Mizzou beating Ohio State 14-3. As we all expected, Ohio State can't score a touchdown. Tigers cover all numbers, doesn't matter when, which, this bowl season more so than anything else. I've been as we've discussed, very limited on pre-flop, much more in-game. And today, one of these games where Penn State finally announces that Kalen King, their star defender, is not going to play, and Uli Fashanu, their star offensive lineman, who's going in the top 10 of the NFL draft, he's also not going to play. We figured that this was going to happen. There have been opt-outs on the Ole Miss side as well. That line has been pretty static this morning, even with the official announcements of King and Fanashu. Again, Chop Robinson not playing as well in this game for Penn State. It touched 6. It's back to 5.5 on this one. This is the Peach Bowl in Atlanta at noon Eastern time. 53 to total. His total's only gone up from 49.5 to 53, Alex.
Quickly, sorry to our crew back there, but congrats to your alma mater. That was a big win last night over Ohio State.
It was a win.
Yeah, third string quarterback, but I'm glad I have listened to you and taken your advice. Halftime, I thought it was very unfair. I was getting plus money with Mizzou in that one, so I jumped on that. My first real in-game with these bowl games. So this one that we're talking about now, though, the Peach Bowl, I'm looking for an in-game play with this. I like Penn State in this one, mostly because of their defense, but this is an intriguing game. Ole Miss, 39th toughest schedule, 2 losses to Alabama and Georgia. Penn State, 58th toughest schedule, 2 losses to Ohio State and Michigan. So pretty good resumes for both of these teams. But James Franklin, 84-22 record against all other opponents besides the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. So I like them in the spot. I'm going to see if Ole Miss can get ahead at some point and I can get plus money on Penn State instead of laying the points here with them. But very good defense, third stingiest in the country, allowing just 12 points per game. So I expect them to show up. I know we have some opt-outs, but I think they can get it done in this one.
I like Ole Miss. I wish I'd gotten that 6 while it was up for a few moments this morning. This is, again, you mentioned James Franklin's record against non-Ohio State and Michigan. A lot of those losses are against teams of actual quality. Yeah, I understand he's at Vanderbilt for a time and tougher place to win games, but I just don't see it here. Now, there are questions again with the Ole Miss side. There are a bunch of opt-outs here as well. So you're dealing with two teams that are not at full strength. We knew this. That's what this bowl season mostly is. And don't worry, we're getting to a game where both teams aren't at full strength a little bit later. But if we can get back to a full 6, I'm going to take with Penn State. I'm going to take with Ole Miss, take the points. I don't know if we're going to get back there. I think that was probably just, as Vinny says, don't blink your eyes. And I blinked. Yeah, didn't get it in time on Ole Miss this morning against Penn State over there in the Peach Bowl. The other bowl games today, we'll get to the Orange Bowl in a second. Music City Bowl, no Talia Tagovailoa for Maryland today in the Music City Bowl against Auburn. Auburn, again, another big mover all over the place. Open Auburn 2.5, got as high as 7, now back down the ladder to 4.5 on the Tigers. Total open 50.5 down to 48. Alex, I'm doing nothing here. the same deal for the Arizona Bowl later in the day. Nothing for me. I keep really these non-New Year's Six bowls are very hard to cap, as we've talked about throughout this bowl season.
They really are. And I was looking to take the points with Maryland here, but once I knew Tagovailoa was not playing, I skipped it. But I did think it was an overreaction because we saw a lot of money on Auburn. They got as high as 6.5. I probably should have jumped on it there because I guess the market agrees with me. But Hugh Freeze has done a great job with this Auburn team. I mean, really, they had a chance to take Alabama out of this playoff race and just came up short there. But I think we'll have a pretty good game here between these two. Billy Edwards gets to start quarterback for Maryland, but he has had some time. He's played a little bit, so we'll see. Maybe an in-game if I still like Maryland and I think they come out hot.
No idea what I'm getting today. That's at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock local in Nashville for Maryland and Auburn. Toledo and Wyoming, it's Craig Bohl's final game as head coach of the Cowboys, retiring after this one today in Tucson, the Arizona Bowl. 4-point favorites right now. There's some 4.5 in the market on Wyoming against the Toledo Rockets. This is a favorite flip. Open Toledo 2, now 4 the other way. 44 to total. I'm not going chasing bad numbers here on the Cowboys, Alex.
I don't really understand this. I know there's motivation. It's his last game. He's retiring after this, but people are just counting Toledo out because they lost the MAC championship, and I don't really understand that. I feel like they may have more motivation to win this bowl game. I like Toledo in this game. I think it's a overreaction. They opened as a small favorite. I think they should be the favorite in this game. I haven't done anything yet. I guess I'll wait because a lot of action coming in on Wyoming. I might get an even better number here.
Yeah, opt-out's a problem for Toledo in this game. Again, these MAC teams are just going to get crushed in the portal, just the way that college football is now. We've seen it over the last few years. Again, don't go chasing bad numbers on Wyoming. And that's the only thing I'll say at this point. Just if Toledo gets an opening drive touchdown, you're going to get Wyoming -1, maybe a pick. I just wait. Just wait. See if you get a better number in game with the Pokes. All right, to the Orange Bowl. We're up to 3 touchdowns, Alex. Georgia, open 14, now 21 across the board. Total's only gone down, now at 46. So there will be a point where I feel like you're obligated to take the points with Florida State, and if you get crushed, you get crushed. Obviously, ton of opt-outs. I would argue Florida State's 5 best players are not playing in this game. Obviously, we know Jordan Travis wouldn't be playing in this game. Both their top 2 wide receivers are not playing. Their 2 best defensive players are not playing. Their best offensive lineman's not playing. But you're at a point here where you're talking about Florida State.
No.
And I know it didn't work last night for Ohio State, where you saw they went to their 3rd quarterback, and it got real ugly real fast. They couldn't move the ball. We've seen it with Florida State already, where the reason they're not playing in Pasadena right now instead of Miami is in part because of how bad that offense looked without Jordan Travis, with Rodemaker, who's not playing in this game. He's in the portal. And Brock Glenn, who is starting today at quarterback for Florida State, where, again, that Louisville team made Mason Miller look like Caleb Williams in San Diego a few nights ago. Again, Alex, I don't know if I'm going to get there, but you're giving me 3 touchdowns. I know the only other similar line to this bowl season was South Alabama against Eastern Michigan, and South Alabama beat them by 40.
Yeah.
So do you always run the risk of that? And we saw Georgia last year. Granted, those games meant something in the college football playoff, that national championship game where they're still scoring on TCU. But it might be, if we get to 21.5, 22, it probably is a take on Florida State. And if Georgia crushes me, so be it.
I'm with you completely. And I will say Eastern Michigan was the lowest power rated team that's been in a bowl game. So that one we kind of saw coming. But this one, it's Florida State, and they do have a really good defense. Next man up mentality. I mean, they have a good program. They've been good for the last few years. So you have to imagine that they have good players coming in to back up these guys who have opted out. We saw the 3rd string quarterback, Brock Glenn, as you mentioned. He did help them win the ACC championship. We know they couldn't move the ball offensively, but their defense showed up. So I think they can keep them in this game with 3 touchdowns. I mean, I'm with you. 21 points is just a lot. And I know there's money on the under, but that worries me a little bit because these two teams both 4-1 to the under in their last 5. But Georgia's median total this year is 55.5, and Florida State's was 52. So this is already a big adjustment there. So I wouldn't just blindly bet this under either.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do that. Now that we're getting close to, hey, Florida State just has to score once, and Georgia could put 45 on their own, and you'll lose.
Right.
I would be very careful on that total. Now, you get a scenario like last night where it's apparent that neither team is moving the ball. Granted, I don't think that's happening on the Georgia side. Their offense, all things considered, of course they have their absences, reasonably intact. But
I mean, they have Carson Beck, right?
Yeah, Beck's playing in this game.
Yeah, so that's a huge advantage for them right there.
Yeah, it's and for Florida, for both of these teams, in all honesty, both in the top 4 entering the final week of the college football season. Georgia loses to Bama. Florida State still undefeated, but not good enough to get in. By the way, I will say this, and you can't even assess off today because Florida State's a mash unit in comparison to what they were. But after watching a pretty close to full strength Louisville look like that against USC, where we had been getting on USC all year long for not playing any defense and being a disjointed unit on offense, and you did that with Caleb Williams not playing, I think the committee got it right with leaving Florida State out. And Alabama will prove that even further on Monday. We'll talk about that. We may mix that in a little bit today. If not, we are here on New Year's Day. Alex has already said she'll be asleep by 7:30 on New Year's Eve. So we'll
might make it till 9.
Might make it till 9.
Yeah, watch New York.
There's an NFL game also till 8:30 too.
Okay,
so
perfect.
So watch the ball drop in Times Square and then see you later. We're on the air at 8:30 on New Year's Day. Ralph's going to be here on New Year's Day as well in his normal time slot, 7 a.m. Pacific time, Race Day Las Vegas, which of course 5 days a week, 7 to 8. All the great horse racing content you need right here at South Point Studio. All right, we're taking a break. When we get back, look at some college hoops. There's a big NFL game today as well. Lions and Cowboys, big one there. Maybe even look at some hockey and some NBA as well. That's next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu, plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
That's us. That's the back of our heads in our studio here at the South Point. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Happy to be with you Final Saturday of the year, 2023. A little less than 48 hours, a little less than 40 hours to go here in Vegas. 37 if you're watching us on the East Coast this morning. Let's go to the NFL. Week 17 got underway with Joe Flacco and the Browns winning on Thursday night. They're in the playoffs. We'll get to that discussion a little bit later in the show. If not, we'll get to it tomorrow. Cowboys and the Lions tonight in Arlington. The double for the Jerry Dome after the Cotton Bowl last night. They get Dallas at home tonight. Cowboys, so very weird playoff repercussions for this one tonight. So Detroit can technically get to the 1 seed by winning out and San Francisco losing once. Philly, who technically is the tiebreaker right now, would not hold the tiebreaker if Detroit wins out and Philly wins out. You follow? Good. We're good there. But if it ends in a 3-way tie with the Niners, the Eagles, and the Lions, it holds as is, as you see on your screen right now. But if the Lions and the Eagles are the only ones with 4 losses or with 5 losses, then the tiebreaker would go to the Lions. Got me?
Kinda.
I think I got it. Niners, by the way, are huge favorites against the Commanders. We'll get to all those games tomorrow on our NFL preview show at 9 a.m. Pacific. Alex is open 6, down to 5.5. Where are you going with this one?
I just saw somebody with a Cowboys jersey at the book, actually. So
Did they bet the Cowboys?
I'm assuming so,
Okay.
and I think that is
Okay.
the right side here. I mean, situational spot. We know how good the Cowboys have been at home, and then the Lions clinched the division for the first time in how long, Jeff?
31 years, 30 years, 30 even, right? Yeah, first time they've ever won the NFC North. They haven't done that. They won it when it was the NFC Central. Before McCormick was born. I was barely on the planet at that point, I'm pretty sure. So, this is uncharted waters for this franchise. And, for tonight, Alex, so you just said, do you think Dallas is the right side?
Yes.
So, the Cowboys, we've talked about this all year with Dallas. They have just gigantic home road splits. And Dallas this year is 3-5 away from Arlington. They are 7-0 at home, looking for the perfect 8-0 home record this year. Their home games, 20-point win against New York, 35-point at the Jets, I should say, had to specify since they played both at home this year. 35-point win against New England, 23-point win against the Rams, 32-point win against the G-Men, 35-point win against Washington, 6-point win against Seattle, and then 20 against Philly. So they're decimating teams at home. Now, granted, I mentioned 1.5. When they played the Rams were not the Rams they are now. The Eagles were in the mix of that just horrendous streak that they're still in the middle of right now. And Seattle was a desperate football team, and that was the crazy 41-35 game.
Right.
So they have crushed everyone at home. And for me with Detroit, I know they're 11-4, and I know there's this great feel-good story. They finally back in the playoffs. They haven't been in the playoffs since it was Jim Caldwell and Matthew Stafford was the head coach quarterback tandem at that point. I don't think they're as good as their record shows. They're clearly a playoff team in this NFC. Clearly one of the 4 best teams in the conference. But I'm not buying them as a legitimate Super Bowl threat. And that's weird to say for a team that if they win out, now they're almost a touchdown dog today, so they're not expected to do that. And the Niners are 2 touchdown favorites this week, and they're going to be double digits next week, especially if they're playing their guys against the Rams. I just don't see it. If they play L.A., I know everyone is all over L.A. right now, and I'm concerned that the Rams are just going to miss the playoffs because if San Francisco needs a game next week, it's going to be double-digit underdogs. But if they draw Stafford and the Rams in Detroit, I'm betting the Rams. Now, granted, I think everyone in the world might be in the Rams that game if that happens to happen. But
that'll be a great overplay. And you mentioned
Yeah, it
even
would
this
be.
game tonight. I
like it
do
over?
lean to the over, but
Yeah.
I really like the first half over.
Okay.
26.5. And I mean, you just went down the Cowboys at home, averaging 40 points at home this year and 24.5 in the first half. They lead the league in that stat. Lions average 15.5 in the first half, both on the road and at home. So we say they have a split, but they show up in the first half. Detroit put up 17 last week against a Vikings defense that I was claiming was underrated, and they allowed 14 as well. So we've seen the holes with the Lions defense as well, and I think that's why you're kind of eerie about them making a big run here at the end of the stretch. But I think we'll see points from both sides.
Well, it's also, too, where their defense has been terrible for the most part since the bye week. The least amount of points that they allowed out of the bye week was against Denver, and that was 17. Every other team has put at least 20 on them. They honestly, Ryan's Bears should have swept them.
Yes.
Right now, we talked about this yesterday. Not to put salt in the wounds again for our guy McCormick. The Bears should be playing for a playoff spot this week. They absolutely should be as favorites against Atlanta. Sorry, Ryan. I just have to do it at all turns because that team is much better than that record shows. But with Detroit, again, they get Minnesota the final week of the season. Who knows who's playing quarterback for the Vikings at that point? It could be Jaron Hall. Honestly, it could be you watching right now at this point. Who knows? Maybe Sean will suit up and play QB for the Vikings next week. Sean is big enough. We know that. I'm
What McConnell, right?
For this week?
No, for the Vikings coach.
Oh, O'Connell.
O'Connell.
Yeah.
He just doesn't like turnovers, right? They have a bad game, and he makes the switch.
He was right to make the switch.
Yeah?
Yeah. If Mullins, I know Mullins threw for 400 yards, and I know he threw for 3 the week before. If he was just okay protecting the football, they win both of those games. The throw at the end of the game last week was just flabbergastingly terrible in every way. So they're hosting Green Bay this week, by the way.
This is their 4th quarterback now? Or 5th?
Well, no, it's still 4.
It's still 4.
Still 4. Hall's already played
included.
at multiple occasions this year. So back to their 4th. So your first half over 26.5.
Yes.
If you can get a flat 52,
Yes.
which you can behind us right now, I think you're good there. I don't love chasing the hook here, but this does kind of have the feel of a 38-31 game, 38-28, something in that pocket that you're really not sweating a 52 when it's all said and done. I just think Dallas is better than Detroit. I know they haven't played well the last 2 weeks. I just think the Cowboys are a better football team, even with the inability to beat the higher-end teams.
You don't love the 5.5, though, either. You would rather take them on the money line. I know you're not a big money line either. You'd have to tie that up with something.
I don't love eating that much chalk on a money line price today. I would just stay out. I like the total more so. I think Dallas wins, but I'd rather have the total.
You might get a chance to jump in.
Oh, I mean, if Detroit scores early, I'll get a nice little discount on Dallas. Going to, Alex, you want to go to some hockey real quick?
We can quickly go through hockey.
You want to quickly go through some hockey here on a Saturday? This is defer to Alex White here on a hockey card on this Saturday. What do we got? 11 games today in hockey, 10 games today.
And what's interesting is 8 teams are playing on back-to-back nights, and we didn't even have that many games last night. So couple situational spots, which I think Carolina is a great spot against the Maple Leafs. Toronto playing on back-to-back nights. They lost in overtime to the Blue Jackets. And then after this game, they go on the road and face all 3 California teams. So good spot for Carolina. They did open at plus money, and now they are a slight favorite there. But I've been much better, Jeff. Been betting, staying away from my overs, betting the unders in the last week, and I'm 5-0-1. So there's also 3 unders I really like today, and that is the Blues playing the Penguins, which is 6 here, but I did see 6.5 out in the market. So I like that even more if you can get the 6.5. Blues are 12-4 to the under on the road, and Tristan Jarry's playing really good for Pittsburgh right now, and he's 13-8 to the under. I like Nashville and Washington under 6, and that is even money. And I'm just going to keep playing Washington unders. 21-10 to the under this year. Very good defensively, struggling putting the puck in the net. Nashville played on back-to-back nights, and they lost in an overtime game to the Red Wings. And then the third one, I haven't bet this one yet, but it is on the list. The Canadians and the Panthers under 6.5. I just think that is too high for these 2 teams. But yeah, so those are my three plays. And then, situational spots. Look at what teams played last night. The Rangers also played last night. Now they are playing the Lightning tonight. That one I would look to the over. But I told you, I'm kind of staying away from overs right now. With college basketball, too, that'll be my trend of the day, looking for dogs and unders.
Can't really blame you. Can't really blame you on that strategy.
Yeah, I got a little carried away, a little with the overs. You know, they were, especially NFL, it's having a lot of fun. Offense was catching up to the defense, taking first half overs too much. So we're reeling it back in.
Quickly looking at the NBA before we shift over to college hoops. I don't have anything shocking development, but I have to bring it up because they broke the record. They almost did it as 17-point underdogs against Boston. Almost got there.
That first half money line, that should have been the play.
Well, I will say this. I'm a little upset with myself that I didn't take Boston on the money line when they were down 17 at halftime. But there are only a few books in Vegas that offer that live money line at halftime. And Boston was still, with the peak number I saw was like plus 140 on Boston on the money line, down 17 at halftime. And honestly, I thought it was priced okay. Honestly. So I didn't bother. They needed overtime, but the Celtics did win the game. The Pistons try to end the losing streak. Oh, by the way, Ryan McCormick, are you the guy who has the Pistons won't win another game at 10,000 to 1? Yeah, still alive. 28 straight losses for Detroit, an NBA record. Alex, they are 5-point underdogs this evening at home against the Raptors. Money line, if you want to bet them to end the streak, plus 170 is the best number. Behind us has it. I think they do it. I think it ends tonight. It ends in 2023 because if it doesn't end tonight, I don't know when it's ending because they go on a West Coast swing after that. And then they get the Kings at home. All right, San Antonio on January 10th probably would be when it would end. But we're talking getting into the 30s that if they don't end this thing tonight.
Raptors 4-10 on the road this year. Is this going to be a studio bet? We're all going to put a couple bucks in here.
If Sean does it, I think we should do it. It's all on. Sean's got 31 minutes to decide if he wants to do it. Okay, sound good? Sean does not like the pressure. Does not like the pressure. Pizza money. It's okay. Yeah. We got one. I will actually remember Joey B owes me $6 for his horrible hockey line from the other day. So we'll just take the $6 from that. Joey, if you're watching or listening, you can just send me a DM on Twitter. We'll figure out the details of payment.
Well, he needs to live comment. I mean, he's always watching punchlines and commenting on Frank's show.
Well, again,
so
look, Frank is a funny guy. I would comment on that show as well if I were Joey B or anyone, in all honesty. All right.
Agreed.
We're going to see Vinny in about 10 minutes. So let's go through our college hoops for today.
Okay.
Let's start in the arena the Islanders play at, UBS Arena today. St. John's. They're in the same borough, Queens. That's where campus is. They'll take on Hofstra, who comes in from Hempstead here. Really interesting matchup. So I'm going to start off here with this, Alex. I thought Hofstra would be better. And I know that we're talking about a Colonial team. They got smoked here in Vegas by UNLV last time we saw them before Christmas. They played Duke close for a half and then got walloped in the second half in that game. Now they play St. John's in this. It's a St. John's home game. There'll be fans of both teams there. It's an easy trip for both fan bases, but it's a St. John's home game. Let's be honest with ourselves. Ken Palm has it at 10. It's 8.5 right now. The total's finally coming back a little bit to 150. St. John's defense has been much better of late. Now, they just played a 62 possession game against UConn, which is pretty darn slow for a team that wants to get out and run. But Hofstra will want to run with them. This total of 150 to me is too low. I expect this game to be in the low to mid 70s possession wise. That should be good enough to get us there at 150. I like this thing over that number, Alex.
I agree with you. I saw last night it was at 149.5. So that is one over I did take last night. not betting a whole lot on college basketball, and I'll let you take over most of this segment because you've been following very well. But I agree with you. I think that both will want to run the ball, and we can get this thing over 150.
I really don't want to talk about this next game, but I feel like I'm obligated to because it's a Power 5 game. Notre Dame's terrible. We know this. You're 223rd in KenPom, hosting Virginia today. Cavaliers, it's what they've been the last few years since winning that national title. Their defense is still really good, and their offense is just awful. Their offense is 136 in KenPom. They're third in defense. Notre Dame is just bad at everything so far this year, and a little bit surprising that I love Shrewsbury. I thought he did a great job at Penn State. I know they got crushed with players leaving, but I expected this team to be further along than they are. They did beat Marist their last time out. They beat them by 4. What a win against the Red Foxes. They're 308th in offense. I have no idea how Notre Dame is going to score in this game. And the total dictates that. It's only 117. Virginia laying 10. By the way, the total's been bet over.
I was going to point that out.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, I saw 115.5 last night. Right?
I know Notre Dame's defense is pretty mediocre as well, but their defense is technically better than Virginia's offense. 111th on defense for Notre Dame, 131 for Virginia on offense. I hate going under these totals that are sub 120 because it just takes one spurt of scoring to really put you in a bind. But I'm a little surprised this thing's been bet over, and it's 117.5 behind us now. I think this under's still fine.
I do too. My dad had it 110.5, so I was kind of looking at it yesterday. Yeah, but now that 117.5, that's definitely a play. Virginia's, I mean, not only is their defense really good, but their pace is so slow, and they want to control that throughout the game. So I think I might have to put a little on that one as well.
Get these bets in early. These are noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific tips for this one. Syracuse and Pitt up next. I will give Syracuse a little bit of credit. They've been better over the last month. After that beatdown loss they took to Virginia, where they gave Virginia 84 points, they've been better. They beat Cornell, who's a good Ivy League team. They went on the road and handled Georgetown, who I know isn't any good, but going on the road against a rival, still an accomplishment. They beat Oregon by 20 on a neutral, where they got in a 10-0 hole, and they ended up dominating the rest of that game. Now they return home to the Dome. I don't care that it's not technically called the Carrier Dome anymore. It's still the Carrier Dome to me. They take on Pitt. It's 1. Total's 149. Pitt is a borderline NCAA tournament team for me. They haven't beaten anyone, so they're on the outside looking in right now. I would lean to the orange here, laying the 1 at home. It's probably not good enough to get there on a play, but that is a lean here, which you know what that means, Alex.
Yeah, which scares me.
Here's by 10.
I was looking at Pitt in this one. Both of them on a 4-game win streak, so feeling pretty good. I mean, Pittsburgh's really only lost to 3 good teams, Florida, Missouri, and Clemson. So this is a good challenge for them to beat one of those good teams in Syracuse. Yeah, on opposite sides here.
Pitt is 0-3 against top 100 KenPom teams. They are undefeated against everyone else. So, again, they have legitimately not beaten anyone. Their best win by KenPom is West Virginia to 130. So, if you're going to make the NCAA tournament, even out of the ACC, you got to start plucking off some wins here. And they get North Carolina on Tuesday.
Well,
so that will be a big opportunity if they could pull an upset in that game at the Peterson Event Center. But I just don't think they're as good as they were a year ago. Of course, winning a first 4 game and then beating Iowa State in around the 64 last year.
Our guy Frank really needs them to make it into the tournament. That's his only future bet right now.
For what?
Pittsburgh 100-1
Bet them to win the title.
Win the title.
I would have booked that. Yeah, gee, come on, Frank. Come on. Really? You should be 1,000-1 in all honesty.
It might have been better than 100-1, was it? I don't remember.
Text Frank, who, by the way, Ryan and I, by the way, shout out again to our guy Ryan McCormick back there, who found probably the best Pop-Tart Bowl-related tweet yesterday, which I'll save for off the air for you, Alex.
Okay.
Because I don't want to offend anyone. But it was as high quality as it is. And Frank didn't understand what a meme was last night, which was also bizarre. Expected more out of you, Frank. Host of Punchlines, by the way.
He's probably still sleeping, you know?
Are you calling
it's
Frank?
Saturday.
It's 8:35. What are you doing, dude? He's definitely asleep. I'd be asleep if I didn't have a show right now. Yeah, there's no way. Frank is going to be so confused when he sees multiple text messages and a call from our guy.
I know,
Sean
he's going to think
there.
he missed his
He'll
own
be like,
show.
wait a second, was I supposed to be on Sports by the Book this morning? Liberty and Alabama next, Alex. Good game. This game's in Birmingham, so yeah, the place is Alabama home game. 9.5, 154. The total on this one, Chris and company actually market high on this. Is mostly 9 on this one. All I'm going to say is with Alabama, and this goes for all Alabama games. Ken Palm loves them. They're 7-5 and they're 8th in the country. Ken Palm loves them. Now, I'll just say this. I think Ken Palm is way off on 2 teams in the top 10. You already know one of them.
I do.
BYU is nowhere near. BYU is closer to 34 than they are to 4, at least for me. And this Alabama team's talented. Don't get me wrong, and they've played a gauntlet, played a really difficult schedule. All their losses are the top 30 teams in Ken Palm, but their best win is Oregon at 47. So, they're playing at Liberty today, which would be the second best opponent they've beaten, according to Ken Palm. Ken Palm has this at 9, for what it's worth. I actually like Alabama in this game. I just, my concern is when Liberty plays up here, and they've played up one time this year in a big way, and Florida Atlantic drilled them, beat them by 25. Charleston they lost to as well, who's down this year. And they lost to Grand Canyon, who's a top 100 team. They've been very bad going upward mobility. Did you get them? All right, we'll get him a microphone in a second. But I like Alabama here. I think they get right. They've played these teams that are way high competition. So a little bit step back. I like Alabama here.
I must be looking at Ken Palm too much because I've been looking for future bets with Alabama, and you've been telling me to wait on that.
Don't do it.
So I'm with them there. And Liberty, I mean, it looks good on paper, 10-3, but you just said it. They haven't beaten anyone good just yet. Total 154. I still think that's okay going over that, but I told you my one overplay for the day, so I didn't take it. But I really do. I think they can get to 160 in this one.
Again, Liberty, the way Liberty plays, Liberty is going to want to slow this thing down. I just don't think they're going to be capable of slowing this down today. So, go ahead, Alex.
You're right. The way they have played, they haven't gone over 70 possessions since Wichita State.
One other bet I like today, Ryan, I'm sorry I didn't mention this to you before, but you don't need a whole graphic for it. Harvard I like today, outright against Iona. They're 3-point underdogs at the peak right now. I would just money line it at that one book right now that has Harvard. Actually, the best numbers behind us on the money line. Plus 125. I would take that on Harvard. Plus 120 is good on the Crimson as well. They're good. Games at home. Iona's not the same team they were with Patino. Of course, Fairleigh Dickinson, head coach of last year. Tobin Anderson, now the coach there at Iona. And then other than that, today, I really want to take Wyoming against BYU, but I need more points. I need, if we can get to 22, I think I would do it. Right now, sitting at 20.5. There's going to be points to go against BYU. They're coming. We talked about it with Jim on Thursday. Maybe not today, but that first road game in conference play when they go to Waco, I'm going to tell you right now, as long as Baylor's not like 7, we're going to be taking Baylor in that game against BYU. All right, we're going to take a break.
Nothing on Creighton and
No,
Marquette.
but Creighton and Marquette today, which is the best game of the day by a wide margin, I think that number's right. Marquette's 3.5. Total's 153.5 right now, Alex. I wouldn't touch it. I think everything's right. If you made me play it, I would take Marquette. If you made me play it. Again, I'm not as high on both of those teams as everyone else is. I think I think they're both good top 20 teams. I've been disappointed in Creighton this year. I've expected more. They have the loss here in in Henderson technically against UNLV. They got walloped by Colorado State, who is legitimately good. The Rams are a legit NCAA tournament team. And then they had a home loss to Villanova. Now, they haven't played since that home loss to Villanova. Been 10 days since they played. Marquette, after their loss to Providence, destroyed Georgetown a few days later. So both teams with more than a week layoff here going into this gigantic game in the Big East. I can't do it. I think the bookmakers, Vinny will like this. The bookmakers got the number right where it needs to be. So they're going to get some two-way action, but not on the desk today on this one. All right, we'll take a break. Vinny's here, and apparently we have Frank on the phone still. Oh, okay. I got all excited. Sean will have to reiterate what he said to me during the break. We'll be back with more Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza. Plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book. Over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book. On the final Saturday of 2023, I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here. And look who's made his way in here.
I made my way in, and
all of Ralph's equipment is still there.
I've got all kinds of. I'm afraid to touch anything.
Does that mean you have some winners for us with the ponies as well?
Yeah,
You're
well,
in that spot.
I'd rely on Ralph. Ralph gives out. Ralph and his team of experts pay attention to Race Day Las Vegas.
Our guy John
Lindo Report. I mean, those guys do a great job. They really do.
Vinny, I want to start with the big college hoops matchup Alex and I just talked about first, because that 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern, one local in Milwaukee. Marquette and Creighton, which is the best game of the day by a wide margin in college hoops. Marquette's 3.5 at home with a 153.5 total here. Vinny, I just ask you here, because Creighton's been bet down this morning from 4.5 to 3.5. When you're dealing with these type of games where you still have football going on, bowl games throughout the day, you have a humongous NFL game tonight. Does the handle do these games get lost a little bit more than you would anticipate, or the people that are going to usually bet these just searching it out anyway?
Well, so the good thing about the college hoops is that it started early again this year, right? I mean, seems to start earlier every year, and it's typically professional bettors that follow it, right? They get their numbers ready early. Just we try to get a handle on it, and there's always value with points. I think this is another example, right? Points. So you have a conference. Now we're getting into conference play too. So you have a conference game here with 2 teams that came into the season with notoriety, and in a conference that's the defending conference, a national championship, right? In terms of UConn, right? So, points were at a premium here. I suspect that there'll be some support from Marquette at whether maybe it'll take getting to 3 to do it. But the public now, particularly with this weekend, right, with so many visitors in town, everything, numbers have pretty stabilized because we've had so much time now to pay attention to it. Now, from our side of the counter, you can't lose sight of it. You just can't focus on football, because there are pros out there that they'll make you pay for your mistakes, and you have a good variety of games. So, credit the folks for doing their work. But again, it's an example, like I often say, right? You don't have to bet every game or every sport. We book them. We have to book them. But the thing about it is that you don't want to get lost. You don't want things to get lost in the shuffle, and pay attention to these games, and pay attention to who's betting them, and out of respect, because there are a lot of good respected opinions. So, I know a long answer, Jeff, but I'd always like to try to qualify it with, from our side of the counter, with our perspective. And college I mean, let's look at, then there's we got a full sheet of extra games today too. So we've gotten a better handle on college hoops now because we have to. And look at, I mean, again, we've had 2 months to get a handle on. And let's remember this year for the last year. In college basketball, there's not just a Power 5. Because of the Big East, there's a Power 6.
Yeah, it's a Big 6.
And you have to be mindful of that. And this is a good matchup right here between Creighton and Marquette. But I think we'll get some Marquette money as we get closer to probably 3. I think we'll see it.
Well, I would argue at this point, with obviously the Pac-12 on its way out, Pac-12 not the quality you're hoping for, at least in hoops this year.
It's
Arizona, and it's Arizona who's leading, and everyone else. Utah's a legitimate tournament team. Colorado's a tournament team.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens when UCLA is down.
It's a good point, because I think the Pac-12 surprised a lot of folks, us included, in football this year.
Very much so.
But basketball, certainly a transitional year, and maybe a lot of players too, because of what's happening next year with the conference realignment. They decided to vacate. They couldn't recruit the way they did, or they didn't recruit.
I mean, UCLA's bad.
I mean, the way they did it in the past. So I think maybe a lot of players, and again, there's so many more, D1 teams out there compared to football, and I think players decided to go elsewhere.
I have a question for both of you with college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed a lot of overs this year, and that's non-conference, right? And kind of letting the guys play defense not so tight. We're expecting that to kind of, adjust as it does throughout the season when we get into conference play, right? And seeing more unders and tighter defense. Jeff's laughing.
No, I'll say this. Someone just made a comment on the show that was
okay.
In relation to Frank's Pittsburgh Panther future ticket. Let's just go with that.
Okay, so we'll have to get to that.
Thankfully, I will say, I don't know if it's thankfully for you guys, Vinny, but Frank did not place it with you guys, so you don't get to collect that money when the NCAA tournament starts.
Well, that's he's backing his team. He's
backing his city for certain.
Admire his passion.
So I will say this: pace is up in college basketball, and always the case with college basketball, more so than, and this goes for the NBA as well, but it's a little bit different in the NBA because it's a different sport. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Pace is what drives the totals. Forget the shooting ability, forget everything else. It's the pace. So let's just take in-game, for example. If there's a game, let's take the St. John's Hofstra game today, for example, which I think is going to be it's 150 right now. I think that game's going to be about a 74 possession game. Okay. I don't need the teams to be horribly efficient in order to get there on a 150 if it's 74 possessions. I just need one of the teams to be a little over a point of possession, and I could even have a team going slightly under 1 point of possession and still get there. So I think it's just that teams are playing faster this year, more so than anything that is dictated. And Vinny, you can talk to this, especially early in the year for college hoops, where you have regular season college football going, you have NFL going, you have the NBA, NHL, everything's going at once. It's harder for you guys behind the counter to adjust, especially college hoops totals, in the fashion that you'll be able to adjust them even now in compare, especially 2-3 weeks from now when it's just NFL playoff games, regular season hockey, regular season NBA, regular season college hoops.
Well, yeah, it's a good question, Alex. Good points, Jeff. And the thing about it is, right, first of all, any rules are geared towards offense. Any rule adjustments are geared towards offense in all sports, let's face it, right? Because as a society, as a country, we love offense.
Right.
Again, I the people at the stadiums, right, with the picket fence and the big D, they're lying. Yeah. I mean, they're just get me on TV with that because they all bet the over too. So, now certainly it's a little jest there, but defense, you still have to defend. I mean, look at Virginia, right? I mean, Tony Bennett is gonna preach defense, but even those games, we still have to gauge how we get opening totals. And there are people out there that are tremendous at totals. That not just because you're here, Alex, your dad does a terrific job with totals in college football and college basketball particularly. Now, what do? We'll get that established. We'll establish a total, but it's going to be quicker line movement and bigger line movement too. So when you look at a total, and if you mentioned, Jeff, the Hofstra total there at 151. And if you get a play on that total, a limit play on that total, you're going to move it at least a point. You might move it a point and a half, because all we're doing is trying to – what's the function of line movement? The function of line movement is to try to get buyback, right? And what you're looking to get that threshold for the buyback. And so and you're also being mindful and respectful of that opinion because totals, there are folks that are just – absolutely proficient at totals, and so you're making that move out of respect as well as functionality. So, but pace is you bring up a great point about pace, and that's what dictates it. Teams getting up and down the court, but the style of play is also look. How many times, Jeff? You called a game not too long ago.
That game had 9 bajillion possessions.
I was going to say though, but the style of play is what? Step back, step back, step back. How many times did you say step back?
Fast.
Right, exactly.
No, 167 points in that game.
So it's just we have to be mindful of the style of play in the current. In the current world in which we live, right? Look at football. I mean, how you look at teams now in football, college and pro, and I love when they say, it's 4th and 1. The analytics say go for it. The analytics say to get in a shotgun at 4th and 1. Also, is that so? Now you're adding 5 yards to where you've got to get to. I'm trying to understand that. Again, that's another. We talked a little about the analytics, I make the point about it because it's the style of play today. So we've got to be mindful of it as well. And again, it comes into account, particularly in a case like that. Certainly for the in-game and the in-game total as well as the in-game number. So just try to. Give you a perspective always from our side of the counter.
College football today.
Yeah.
We'll get to the NFL game before we get out of here. Don't worry, folks. So, Ole Miss and Penn State. Penn State's 2 best players were declared not playing today, and the folks are betting Penn State anyway.
We just went to 6.
Yeah, up to 6.
So I'm from 5.5.
I'm taking Ole Miss at 6 now. I'm going to be in on the Rebels. Vinny, There have been a bunch of things in this bowl season that we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
From the way the market has played some of these games have just, at least to me, have been completely and utterly illogical. Now, last night, Cotton Bowl, it did
Congratulations
look,
to your alma mater.
Hey, 14 in the fourth, enough. More than enough, in all honesty. Ohio State might have played 8 quarters and not scored a touchdown in that game with how that third-string quarterback looked. But this is another one. It's a little bit like, I know there's absences on the Ole Miss side, and I know the market already was expecting for Penn State's 3 best players now not to play. But again, we're betting Penn State on the morning of the game, even with that?
I don't know if it's name recognition or name brand support. I'm not sure, but look, we know this, that whoever's playing for Mississippi, again, we'll go back to pace and the style, right? We know that Kiffin wants to to score points, and these are 2 programs that figure to be in the mix next year for the expanded playoff. And, certainly a recruiting game. And part of that recruiting game is the transfer portal, right? Look, we want to attract some quality folks out of the transfer portal as well. By the way, Mississippi's had a pretty good recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about just high school recruits coming in. They've landed some another thing we have to, because we're not busy enough. We have to keep track of that. I know Chris Andrews in the office right now saying, "Oh my God," he's shaking his head, going, "Really? We got to start keeping track of that." I drive Chrissy crazy with that stuff. But the thing is that, the support here for the Nittany Lions, and because you talk about defense, it's not like Mississippi plays a whole lot of defense, so or is particularly good at it. But just went to 6 here, so. I could see where you're looking to take it, Jeff.
The market's just gone a little bit wacko because 2 books just went to 5.
Yeah, I see.
As 1 book went to 6.5.
Yeah,
figure that one out.
Well, you've got the ultimate shopping experience, right? Listen, Christmas in our business, Christmas doesn't end on the 25th.
What are you talking about? It's 365, 24/7.
That's right. Every day is Christmas.
Yeah.
So.
Going to the NFL game tonight.
Yep.
5.5, 52. Your market low on the total. We talked about it yesterday on the show, Vinny, but it's kind of a prove it. It's weird to say for 2 teams that are in the playoffs already in double-digit wins, but it's kind of a prove it game for both of these teams, isn't it?
Well, I think it's a measuring stick. And again, I did hear comments by Dan Quinn. He wants to see where his team is at. I mean, and I think it's a fair point. And if you're the Cowboys, both of these teams are trying to position themselves and hope to get the number 1 seed, right? I mean, we know that Detroit is going to host a playoff game too, as division winners. Dallas still has aspirations of winning the division, although the schedule obviously favors the Eagles, who have the Cardinals this week and then the Giants on the road next week. So. I think that, by the way, a little more juice maybe for the Cowboys today in terms of adrenaline. Jimmy Johnson is being inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor, so I think maybe that, at least in the beginning, right? The Cowboys figure to come out fast. They do play well at home, and I give Dan Quinn credit for recognizing the fact that he's got a lot of respect for the Cowboys, but he wants to see where his team is at heading into the postseason. So 6 down to 5.5. They did take the points, and points we've seen, right? And especially in the last couple of years, how these NFL games seem to come down to that last possession. So points at a premium here. Total did go up and then come down. We opened at 52.5. It went up to 53.5 here at South Point, and now down to 52. I suspect as we get closer to kickoff tonight, again, it's a primetime game, 5:15, that we'll see some over support here, particularly by the general public.
Before we get out of here, I have to ask about the Orange Bowl.
The Orange Bowl, all right.
14-21 on this game, Vinny. A whole touchdown.
Yeah.
Here's the question. Are we done yet moving? Are we getting through 21?
You might, because the total now. Remember yesterday we were talking
Yeah.
about how this total was sitting at 44, and how is it not going up? Well, it's up to 46. So will it go through 21? But if it does, I suspect that then we'll see some. I think folks are waiting for that, and if you can grab three and better than 3 touchdowns,
I think you're kind of obligated.
It's
and
almost,
if Georgia
yeah.
decimates you, so be it.
Hey, again, you can always say, you know what, I had the lead in that game. I had a 3 touchdown lead in that game.
That's right.
And then the game started.
Oh, man. Vinny, pleasure as always.
Always good
We'll
stuff.
see you tomorrow. We'll
We'll
see
be
you
back
tomorrow
tomorrow.
as well, Alex. Shout out to the crew as always. Doing great work. Sean waking Frank Nicotero up this morning. He woke him up.
Did we find out what the number is?
200 to 1.
200.
Still not good enough. He needs 2,000 to 1, personally.
You woke up Frank just to torment him? Wow.
Wow.
That's nice.
Yeah, well, it happens.
That's
It happens. All right.
What
Well,
happens
that's
if I push this. If I push, I see. Oh,
he can mute himself.
really?
Oh, wow.
Wow. All right.
Might need that for myself.
We need a button here too when we get down to like crunch time that has the beep on it, like for profanity.
Oh, man. All right. Well, for Alex White, for Vinny Magliulo, I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time, previewing Week 17 in the National Football League. You're on Sports by the Book.